Actually, they're all here. Jose, Wan Ming, and Tony. I don't have a general evaluator, but we can, appoint somebody for that.
You can be general.
I could. That way I can evaluate the meetings being perfect.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
We're hereby start the October 9th Start of Toastmasters meeting. Please raise your hand for our president.
Well, it's such a crowded morning. We have exactly 6 people. Is that 6? Yeah. No, 5. Six people in the room, and let's make the most fun out of it, no matter what. Okay?
The room is ours.
Yeah. The room is yours, and the floor is yours. Yes. Today the topic is communication. Wow, this was a powerful one. Even yesterday, when we welcome a new team member in our company, one of the key things that we like to share to that new team members is about communication. It's so important for us to understand about each other, being straightforward, say what you think, and at the same time be skillful enough to make the other person be pleasant and
Hello.
there's also a fine line between being honest and being likable. So I would love to hear more of that today, or any discussion that we might have about how to perfect or make our communication improve. With that being said, do we have an invocator? Okay, please let's all rise up. And welcome back, Hannah. We miss you. Yes, the invocator today is Jose, so please share with us why we choose the theme.
Good morning, fellow Toastmasters.
Good morning.
Our topic for today is communication, which is one of the core attributes or competencies we want to develop as being Toastmasters. So in that sense, this is what we're trying to achieve, communication. And what is really communication? Communication, and I would like to emphasize for everyone, is not just competency within yourself, it's also very much a big part of it is the way we connect with everybody, the way we connect with our fellow human beings, the effect of what we say to everyone, and how we impart that. And I would say communication is more than just what you say, but it's an ongoing connection with everybody else, everybody around you and the world. And in that sense, let's expand our ability to communicate to our neighbors and to the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jose. Thank you. I like how you use the word connect, and it's so important. From here to here is have a distance, right? But how the word we say touch the heart of the person or the people who deliver the message to is very important. That is the connection. And at this club, I felt that we have a good connection between our members to see that we also fought on odds to be here, getting up early like Tony and I is just giving gratitude to Jose for being still every Wednesday morning, be a wonderful surgeon, and making sure that we have all the facilities that we have to make sure that the club's going well. Today we have one guest, but she's about to become a member. So just to set a milestone for you to officially become a member today, please tell us 1 or 2 sentences about what's your expectation being back to Toastmaster and join Stellar Speakers. Ash?
So I definitely would just like to be more comfortable speaking. That's something that I want to work on. And then obviously the community is great. I think in Toastmasters it's nice to get to know everybody and then get to see the growth of everybody else, and then see the speakers that are already great, like mentor everybody, like the new incoming people that join. And I think it's a great community and it's a great way to learn. Yeah.
And I would like to introduce the Toastmaster of today. Let's welcome Georgie. Thank you. Thank you.
Hey, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
We have a few roles that we need to fill.
Sure.
To begin with, we do need a general evaluator. In theory, I could do that role, but does anybody want to be general evaluator?
Could I do that?
You're actually an evaluator.
So I can't, right?
You could in theory.
Okay, I cannot, right? No. Okay.
All right.
So it has to be a speaker, maybe.
I'll be
right?
general evaluator then.
Oh, okay.
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 All right. And we also need an awe counter. Does anyone want to be an awe counter today? Awe counter? Great. Right. We also need a timer. Oh, sorry. Tony, can you please give us a quick description on what the awe counter does, please?
Okay, so it's an R counter. I'm gonna count the few words that you use, like so, and repeated words, so that you be mindful about carefully choose the word and not using the few words during the time you speak. Yeah.
Thank you. Right. We also need a timer. Would anyone like to be timer today?
Can I do that?
Yeah, actually, if you wouldn't mind, Hannah, would you mind? Okay, great. Can you describe the timekeeper role, please?
I believe it's 5 to 7 minutes per speech unless you ask for additional time. So table topics, you're allowed 2 minutes. I'll be timing on that. Evaluations, 3 minutes. Speeches, 5 to 7 minutes, but maybe longer. I will show up doing the cards.
Yeah, we do the cards around here somewhere, and the timing bell's right there.
Okay. So I'll be showing the green when there's 2 minutes left, yellow when 1 minute left, and red when time is up. 30-second grace minute, and then you'll get the bill.
Okay, thank you very much. We also could possibly use a word master today. Would anyone like to be word master?
Why can you come up with a word?
Okay. Think about word master. Meanwhile, you got a word master? I don't know. The last one was pretty bad, so. I'm not sure if it's English, to be honest.
I'll just use the word that Jennifer just used, connected.
Okay.
So the word for today is connected. You're supposed to speak it. Use whatever you speak, you use it. Connected means things are joined together somehow. So
Connected being the verb, connection being the noun.
yep, connection being the noun, connected being the verb, and the past tense of the word. In fact, it's actually an adjective that describes things that are joined together.
Great.
So let's use the word. And an example of using the word is, we all connected here this morning because of Toastmaster.
Okay.
Okay, please
Are
use
there
the word.
any fines or anything associated with that?
In the past, we've done this 25 cents fine. I don't think we've been collecting it.
Okay. Well, we theoretically have a fine. It's a question of anybody collecting it, so we'll worry about that later. Meanwhile, does anyone, let's see. In theory, we could have a grammarian, I guess. Does anybody want to be grammarian? I'll be grammarian. I'll pick up some grammarian stuff. Alright. We do need a ballot counter. Does anybody want to be ballot
I'll
counter?
develop kind of.
You sure? Okay. Alright. We know who's going to be the best evaluator now. Alright. And can you give us, well, I'll give a description on grammarian. So the grammarian looks at, listens to how we speak and tries to point out ways that we can improve our English and maybe point out things that we said well or used an interesting turn of phrase. Could I get a description of what the ballot counter does and how you like things done?
Well, I'll be the ballot counter. I'm gonna collect the ballots at towards the end of the meeting for the awards, and so just pass on the ballot to my side towards the end of the meeting. Thank you very much.
Okay. And be sure to vote for Jose for best evaluator. All right. Can we get a description on the video master, please?
I'll be the video master.
Because you already set it up. So.
Yes, I already set it up. I'll be downloading this video into YouTube. If you don't want to be part of the video, I could edit it, or I could learn the way. If you want. Yeah. Right.
Okay. And with that, it is now time to turn to our prepared speeches section of our meeting. We have, in theory, 3 speakers today.
Right.
We'll see about corralling the last one later on. The first one we're going to be looking at today is Jennifer, who's going to be speaking for 5 to 7 minutes. 5 to 7 minutes. And her title is Atomic Habits. Please help us connect with Jennifer.
Thank you.
So what were you going to evaluate Jennifer, right? Okay,
Oh,
perfect.
yes. Bombing. I guess I should say that. I'm a bad GE.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Morning.
Today is the first time I use a presentation for my speech, and today I would love to share with you about a book that significantly has an impact with me, even though I got to know this book just last week, and it's called Atomic Habits. This is the book. I randomly searched on Amazon, and it recommended as one of the most popular book right now. And this is the very first time too that I finished to read it in just 3 days. When I consider sharing this book to our Toastmaster, I was a little bit hesitant at first because this book compact with a lot of knowledge and tips and tricks and research and sharing in this one. So I can't do it in such a 5 to 7 minutes. So I picked a chapter in it to share with you. And let me get started into business. So this is the moment that I took picture of this one when I was at the pack. I know already that this is such a powerful book to change how I do my approach to each day and how to improve myself in my habit. And I put it here that is my best read in 2015 so far, 2019 so far. The most interesting chapter that I would like to share with you is about the truth of talent when genes matter and when genes don't. So let's look into these pictures. Do you recognize these 2 athletes? One is Hijam El Dejour, and this is Michael Phelps. They have been wonderful athletes. Michael Phelps, he won so many Olympics gold medal that no other athletes can achieve the same achievement like him. And Hijam El Dejour is one of the most astounding runners as well, and he won 2 medals. And he have such a wonderful achievements in the world of sports. These 2 seems like having no common, except that even though Michael Phelps have short legs and long torso, and this gentleman have incredibly long legs but short upper body, but they have the same length of pants, mean that the length of their legs is similar. And given that the genes of these 2 people are such different, but they are built for their sports that they are doing. With the body of Michael Phelps, he certainly would be able to achieve the achievements like El Dejour can, and vice versa. With this bodybuilding, short leg and long legs and sport short upper body, he would be able to achieve such a wonderful thing like Michael Phelps do, because it would not build for the swimming thing. So not all the people will have the good genes that they can in the work or in the sports or in the thing that they choose to do. So the very first point is to choose the right field of competition. Some people would fit for swimming, some people would fit for their running. And people are born with different ability. Genes doesn't determine your destiny, but it determines your area of opportunities. Are the three things that we can get from here. The next point is about the personality. The genes is operating underneath of your personalities. As one of the researchers said, Robert Pollin, he told the author that people now stop testing if the gene would affect the personality, because they literally can't find any trait of personality that would not influenced by the genes. We can find here there are 5 spectrum of different personalities. They call it Big 5. The first is openness. It ranges from curious, interventive to cautious or consistent. The second is consensuousness. The third is extroversion. The fourth is agreeableness, and the fifth is neuroticism. For example, an extrovert person will be more likely to do social organizing event or doing outside work, whereas the people who tend to have more agreeableness will have kind, warm, and easy to get well with people. So when you have the personality, you pick the habit that embrace this personality the best, and that is how you do with your personality and choose the habit that best fit with it. The fourth is how to find a game when the odds are in your favor. Here, when you pick the game that it's easier to build a habit, the first is pick the right habit. Because when you pick the right habit, the rest are easy, and if you pick the wrong one, life is a struggle. For example, if someone who is a morning person, it's so easy to put all the important priorities in the morning. Let's say doing exercise, doing important work in the morning, whereas in a night out person will have the tendency to be so struggle getting up early. For example, myself, it's so hard to get up early in the morning being here, but once you'll be able to change it and overcome the struggle, then it's become the easier habit for you. So you should need to pick the right habit. And how to pick the right habit? The tip is you have to make it easy. Ask yourself this question: does it fun? Does it making you lose track of time? Does it have the greater return than the average person? And what comes natural to you? Google is famously allowed their staff to spend 80% of their work, 8% of their time doing the important work, and 20% of their time doing whatever that comes natural and the employee feel like to do. And that is where come the blockbuster of AdWords and Gmail. So that is also the rule 80-20. How to get the most out of the gene? The important thing is to pick the behavior that fit with your personality and your skills. One of the famous cartoon composer called Scott Adams, he said that I'm not the best drawer out there, and I'm not the best who making jokes. But when I combine the two, between making jokes and draw, I be able to be really advanced and be the top 25% of my colleagues who in the same career path. So pick something that both fits your personality and your skills, and it helps you to advance your skills and your achievement and the odds of being success. in summary, Gene would not eliminate the need for hard work. It just helps us to clarify it, and it tells us to work on. So that is my conclusion, and I hope that you feel that this book is very complex, like the way I present it, and it's just one of the chapters. I encourage you to get the book and find it yourself, and we can go from there. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Jennifer. Okay. If everyone could please spend about a minute to give Jennifer feedback on her wonderful speech for Atomic Habits. Wrapping up our comments. Okay. And with that, we're going to have an envelope going around so that we can collect our comments for Jennifer. Meanwhile, we're going to move on to our second speaker, who is Ash, who's going to be giving an icebreaker today. She's just joined the club, so please, everyone help me welcome Ash, giving her icebreaker.
Everybody. So just wanted to join the club and then give my first speech, which I'm excited to do. And thanks for having me here today. And I'm going to start with just my childhood to tell you guys a little bit about myself and where I grew up, some things that I like to do, where I went to school, and then present day of what I'm doing now and like looking forward to do in my life. So growing up, I was actually born in India, and then I moved here when I was about 2, and I'm the oldest out of 3 children. So growing up, coming from an immigrant family, they're a little bit more strict on me and then more conservative. So they're completely different now with my brother and sister, and I see them allow them to do anything that they want, come home at 4 in the morning, and they don't get yelled at like I would. And I had a curfew at like 8 p.m. So it was an interesting experience growing up. So I think that kind of shaped up my personality. So I was a bit more shy, a bit more reserved growing up in high school and in elementary school. And another thing when I was growing up is something that I just learned about myself. So we had our team retreat last week where we rented this big house and we were all together. And one thing that we did was play board games because the house had a bunch of board games. And one thing I realized was I didn't really know a lot of the board games. And I was like, oh, I'm kind of embarrassed. Like, I don't really know a lot of these board games. But then I kind of like looked back at my childhood. Why didn't I like really like know like basic board games? It's because when I was a kid, I like loved to be outside. And that's something I actually appreciated, like in retrospect. I was so adventurous. I would get my bike and just go with my friend and we'd just ride around. There's like almond trees by where I lived, so we'd just go in there and like just walk around, pretend we're lost, look for like animals and birds and like whatnot. And there's a canal nearby, so my friend and I would go there, catch tadpoles, and I tried to make a pond in my backyard. So I got a bowl and put it into the dirt, and I brought the tadpoles in and I put them in there. My mom thought I was crazy. I'm like, why are you bringing tadpoles into the backyard in a bowl? Because it was hot and then they'd die because it was really hot, and like obviously the water would get really hot. And then one time I found a bunny. No, actually, that happened, but I wanted a bunny, and my parents didn't allow me to have a pet at the time. So I asked my friend, I think I was like 8 at the time, to buy a bunny for me, and I told my parents I found it, and I have to keep it. And so I was like very adventurous in that sense. I loved animals, I loved being outside, and they ended up allowing me to keep the bunny because they really thought I found it. I still don't think they know that I lied to them, and I had her buy it for us. And that happened, and another thing that I really loved in my childhood was making clothes for my Barbies and getting my mom scarves, and we'd like do like little fashion shows, and that kind of later on came back when I was in high school, where I kind of got more into fashion and like expressing yourself a little bit more through the way you dress and finding your identity through that. And then I realized I wanted to become a fashion designer because everything was kind of coming back to me of what I enjoyed doing as a child. And my parents, they were supportive about it, but they're like, okay, you know, like maybe you should like go to school first and get a 4-year degree, and if you still want to be a fashion designer, then we'll support you. But we'll still support you, but we just don't think it's the right thing to do. And I decided to not do that, and I went to a university, got a degree in marketing. And it still kind of stuck with me. I still wanted to do something of my own, and then kind of have my own business eventually. I ended up majoring in marketing to have more of a creative aspect in whatever I do, even though I never ended up doing anything in marketing after I graduated, which happens a lot. And so then I went to San Diego State, graduated with a degree in marketing, and then I ended up moving back home. I'm from the Central Valley area. That's where my family lives. It's like the middle of California. And moved back home, worked for a little bit, and kind of confused of what I wanted to do now, or where I wanted to work, because what I was doing at the current moment I wasn't necessarily passionate about. And something that's important to me is passion. I can't do something if I'm not like passionate about it. It might not be at the moment that I realize, okay, like this is what I like to do, or this is what I want to learn from it. But there has to be some aspect that like drives me, that makes me like wake up in the morning. Otherwise, I won't be that invested in what I'm doing, I guess. So that's something that's really important to me. And so I had my job that wasn't really passionate about it, and they wanted to promote me and move me to the Bay Area, which is I was already planning to do. I was planning to quit and then move to the Bay Area. I was looking for jobs out here. And they're like, oh, we want to promote you and we want to move you to the Bay Area. I was like, oh, that's perfect. I get to move here and they get to pay for it. And then I look for other jobs. And so I ended up staying a little bit longer than I wanted to at that job. And then I wanted to really work for a startup. That's what I really wanted to do, and that's why I wanted to move to the Bay Area. And I ended up quitting my job, and it was a completely different industry. So it was really hard for me to find a job in the startup world because I had no experience. And eventually I found something. So I worked at a startup for about a year, and then gained a lot of experience, and then I decided to quit my job to go travel for about a month, just to kind of do like a solo backpacking trip in Europe, because it was always on my bucket list. And I was just having a conversation with my director at that time. I was like, you know, like one of my biggest regrets was not studying abroad in college. And he's like, oh, well, you can still do that. I was like, oh, maybe I can. I was like, okay, like, can I work remotely and just travel? And he's like, okay, yeah, sure. Like, if you do your job, that's totally fine, do it. But then, since it was a startup, there's some miscommunication, and then I had already bought my ticket, and they're like, oh, no, just kidding, you have to stay in Spain the whole time, which we had offices there. And I was like, no, like, I already kind of planned this out, and I already bought my ticket, and I already planned, like, where I wanted to go, so I guess I'm just going to quit and just go do this. And it was already in my head, it was like I wanted to work there for 1 year and find something else, and that was exactly my 1 year. So just kind of felt like it was right timing. And then I kind of traveled and then came back, and this is now, I'm here at Plug and Play, so I work 3rd floor for Plug and Play for our energy team. And something that I've been focusing on lately is stepping out of my comfort zone. So for example, Toastmasters, like public speaking wasn't something I was that comfortable and confident in, but I just kind of want to keep doing it just to be more confident in eventually. Then another thing is dancing is something I've never really been into. It's mostly because prior story I told myself I wasn't good at this, so I just never tried. And so now once a week, my roommate and I, which is also one of my best friends, we both are trying to step out of our comfort zone, and we're taking a dance class once a week and then doing Toastmasters and trying to just throw myself out there to things I don't enjoy doing or I'm afraid to do, so I can just build more confidence. And then another thing I'm doing is like attending like some conferences, personal, not professional. So like a women's conference I just went to 2 weeks ago, which I was so inspired and so motivated. And I went to a TED Talk in San Francisco last week, which was amazing. I highly recommend it. And with me, I've learned since I've traveled on my own, if nobody wants to go somewhere with me, I'm totally fine doing it on my own. And I just went to the TED Talk by myself, and it's pushing me like out of my comfort zone to talk to people and network, because that's something I wasn't really that comfortable in doing either. But my job currently requires a lot of networking and talking to people, so that's kind of pushed me to do more of that, and I'm more comfortable just going somewhere by myself. And if I want to travel, I'm like, okay, nobody wants to go with me, I'm just going to go do this on my own. And it's a great learning experience. I've learned to be more comfortable with myself and learn more about myself. I've learned probably more about myself this year than I have in my whole entire life. Because before, when people would ask you, like, what are you good at? What are your strengths? What are you passionate about? I just didn't know how to answer that question. And now that I'm pushing myself outside of my comfort zone, trying to learn things that I would have not normally been comfortable doing, I feel like I'm really starting to know who I am and what I'm passionate about. And I think that will lead me to like what I want to do in the future, which is have my own business, but not quite sure what it is yet. So that's that. So thank you. That's what I wanted to share with you. Hopefully it isn't too long. Oh. So I'm still kind of new, so I don't really know.
Sorry, must have moving fast enough. Thank you very much. That was a wonderful icebreaker. Right, now if everyone could please give Arf some feedback on her icebreaker. We'll just take 1 minute or so. We could start maybe wrapping up the comments, give it a few more seconds. And once again, you'll see an envelope going through, and you can put your comments into it so that Asha has some feedback on her icebreaker. And for our last but not least speaker for today, Harun was so inspired by Arsha's icebreaker that he will be giving an icebreaker.
Aww.
Yes, his third icebreaker. Since he has only been in here in this meeting for a little while, but you know, try again is the way he does it. So this is his way of finding himself. So please help me welcome Harun to give his third icebreaker.
Fellow Toastmasters, honored guests, good morning. This is my third icebreaker speech. I gave my first icebreaker speech in 2015. I'd been introduced to Toastmasters by my then boss, who was raving about how Toastmasters helped him getting over his public speaking issues. Now you might be thinking that I'm stuck in some weird time loop here, some startup speakers Groundhog Day, but that's not true. There is a method to this madness. I'd originally planned to finish my Competent Communicator in 2015. But then 2015 became 2016, 2017, 18. And then during that time, after multiple jobs, changes, moves, a wedding, my Toastmaster journey was still incomplete. But in 2019, I rejoined Toastmasters and then saw a lot of new faces here. I thought that I'd better introduce myself again, and hence this icebreaker. Plus, I'd also lost my old CC manual, so that was another reason to, because I had no way, I had to restart the program. So that's another reason. We won't talk about that. Now, I was originally planning to reuse my old icebreaker speech, but then as I was rehearsing it and reading through it, I realized that that didn't work anymore. I had changed over the last 5 years or so. And I decided that it was best to actually have just answer 3 questions that you would normally ask me in a small conversation. And hopefully you'd get an idea of who I am. So the first question that I'm going to tell you that you would ask me, I mean, if you ever have a conversation, what am I excited about these days? Well, for the past couple of years I've been working on a knowledge management tool that I've been very passionate about. But one of the big problems that I had always been facing was how to form connections between various knowledge items that you accumulate over time. And at the beginning of this year, I read about this method about note-taking called the Zettelkasten method, which was really about recording 3 points about any notes. 1, what is the citation? What is the source of the problem note? What is the type of knowledge that you're trying to record there? And how do you combine it with other groups' notes? And this note-taking method kind of solved that problem that I had, that I always had, where there was an impedance mismatch between a linear note-taking method with the tree or web-like relationships between various nodes that you usually have. So over the past 6 months or so, I've been working on this little program that would automate and sort of put this into a little software that'll be usable. And along the way, I've been learning a lot of new stuff, which I've been having a lot of fun with, but project management, UI development, natural language processing, a couple of other things. So this is something that I'm excited about, and I'm actually excited to see that come to fruition so that by the end of this year, I might have a working prototype. Now, I'm really big on writing things. I have a really bad memory. So I take a lot of notes wherever I go. And they're all handwritten, they're digital. Writing for me is a form of thinking. And I guess it's always been easier to think with my hands than with my head. But if you have to write, you better start reading. So what am I reading these days? Stephen King in his book on writing wrote, "One learns most clearly what not to do by reading bad prose." And one of the things I've decided to do is to really understand how bad writing happens. So I just finished reading a book called An Illustrated Guide to Bad Arguments. Learning the Lost Art of Making Sense. Now this is a really small book, but it has a collection of logical fallacies that you often see in the news, in writing, in essays, in news articles. And it kind of lists them out and what things to look for in a bad argument. So it's talking about things like circular reasoning, appealing to the bandwagon, creep into and how to detect how these kinds of arguments creep into our conversations. Now these things creep into our daily lives pretty frequently, and it's instructive to read about them and to watch out for them. I'm also a big science fiction fan, so I just started listening to the last book in the Three-Body Problem. That's called, The Three-Body Problem is a trilogy by a Chinese science fiction author called Cixin Liu, and it really talks about how this civilization, this extrasolarian civilization is planning to attack Earth. And what they point out is how they actually block all scientific progress. It's interesting ideas on how you communicate with extraterrestrial civilizations, what happens when explanations of the Drake equation, which kind of speculates on the probability of extraterrestrial life. As you can see, I'm pretty big into science fiction. Big Star Wars fan. I think Star Wars is much better than Star Trek. I've liked my science fiction to be a little grittier than the utopian vision that science fiction like Star Trek seems to portray. So I like a little bit more action-oriented science fiction. Now, what am I looking forward to in the next year, in the next few months or so? Since I told you that I'm a science fiction fan, I'm looking forward to a trip that I've been planning for some time to Disneyland to see the new Star Wars exhibit. Now that's something that's really exciting to me because I've always wanted to see that live and in the real world as opposed to on a movie theater. The other thing that I'm looking forward to is finally completing my Toastmasters journey, and this new Pathways program seems to be really exciting. It's what they've done is put some real games into it, so you actually structured your way and gain points as to how you finish. Well, it seems like it's like a game, how you progress through your program. And finally, I'm looking forward to some new shows that I've been reading about from book shows that are based on books. So as you know, there's a sci-fi show called The Expanse that's coming out soon. Another series that I'm really excited that I'm a big fan of, and I've heard that Lord of the Rings is being turned into a TV show, which is much closer to the original source material. So something that I'm looking forward to. So to conclude, I'm excited about some compelling ideas on logic and software development that I've been working on. I'm reading some new material on thinking and reasoning, and I'm looking forward to some more speeches on Toastmasters. Hopefully that'll be more than just my icebreaker. As Franklin Roosevelt said, be sincere, be brief, be seated. And I shall now sit.
All right. Everyone could please give Harun some feedback on this speech. And as you're finishing up your comments for Harun's speech, also be sure to vote for the best or most improved speaker at the bottom of the ballot. Meanwhile, there'll be an envelope coming around so everyone can give feedback to Harun. And with that, I, the Toastmaster, will now introduce the General Evaluator, who happens to be me. Yay, me! Right, and with that, we will now go to the one of the interesting parts of the meeting that lets us get feedback immediately on the speeches that we just gave. With that, we're going to go through the evaluators in the order which matches up with the speakers. So with that, I'd like to introduce I would like to introduce Wan Ming, who will be evaluating Jennifer's speech, Atomic Habits. Please help me welcome Wan Ming.
Thank you. This general evaluator, fellow Toastmasters, and especially Jennifer. That was a good speech. It was a good speech about that book, Atomic Habits. I didn't know about the book, so I might start looking at the book. Thank you. And as you mentioned, the book is very complicated, but you focus on one topic, which is how do you leverage your genes to build the good habits. And by focusing on that is very good, because now we can get to understand one area of this complex book, and yet we get a flavor of what the book is about. So that in itself is a very good thing that you did, by focusing on one topic rather than talk about all the different things, going through the whole content of the book and spend the 5 to 7 minutes on that. Rather, you spend the 5 to 7 minutes on that one topic. So that's very good. You also, in the first few slides, are very concise. And you have pictures, you have a few words, so that's very good. And you want to continue to do that, because later in some of the other slides, too many words. So you want to reduce those words, take those out, and be more like the first 2, 3 slides. Those are very good. And you also gave a number of examples. One of them is about the morning person example. Examples are always good. Telling stories will help us understand more. The comment I have in terms of some feedback is, one of the biggest issue with slides is whenever you stand in front of the slides and then you turn back and look at it, your back is to the audience. So what I've taught someone else told me about it, what you do is you walk back. That way, at least you face the audience. Or you stand here, and then you just point to it, rather than looking back and forth. Or you look at the slides in front of your laptop, and then you don't have to walk back. It's a very key thing to do, because you don't want to turn your back to the audience. The other thing I found you were doing, maybe it's intentional, maybe not, you were walking left and right a lot. I'm not sure why you do that. Yeah. But that's okay. There was one slide that was fairly complicated. You talked about openness, conscientiousness, extrovertness, or whatever, agreeableness, and something about neuroticism. Very complicated words. And too many words associated with that slide. Very complicated concepts. For that one, I would suggest maybe just talk about one of those 5 things, and rather than go through all 5, because there's no time to do that. Unless you have more time. If you have an hour, then you can go through all that stuff. 5 to 7 minutes, although you have 5 complicated concepts, focus on one. And then the rest is read the book. But otherwise, you have a great speech. Good speech about the book. We learn about what that book is about. You focus on one area in the book, very important, and help us really understand what the book is about. And the idea is to, at least the thing I got out of it is leverage your genes, and then sort of fit your habits into how you're born with. Very good. And thank you for the book, and thank you for the speech.
Yay! Thank you. Our next evaluator will be Tony, who will be evaluating Arch's icebreaker. Please help me welcome Tony.
I feel connected between the speech today and the topic connection. When everybody try to tell their own story in ice breaking and ice breaking again, that makes me also want to do my ice breaking again. But you don't want to do that. Okay, anyway. So for us, thank you very much for sharing your story, and also there's so many good things, especially the rabbit. I like that. So first of all, you also have a good way to catch the attention from the audience. by the way that you're sharing, like the tone, the eye contact. You really control the eye contact throughout everybody in the room. Good sense of humor. I don't have any like the grammar things. I feel that is good. For the non-verbal, you have a pretty good stay control. The only one thing that I recommend you to do is so it's nice working, right? So you basically just root here for the whole time. So you like to break like half the eyes and the rest still here. So in the future you can just like move a little bit, not too much, but a little bit. So then people say feel like more of the energy from movement. And okay, so the last one that I would recommend you is the speed of your speech. So I don't know how other people perceive the story, but the people who have like second language like me, you know, like it's very hard if you keep going in a very high speed, and the story have the highly connected context in there. If you add it in the presentation with a different point, if you miss one point, there is maybe another point that you can follow through. But if that's in the story, and if I miss like some or two things, like it's very hard for me to catch up and imagine the whole story vividly. So speed is something you can reduce a little bit or start to have some punch to let people know, okay, I move to the next part. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And our third evaluator will be evaluating human speech. Please help me welcome Jose.
Thank you very much, Arun, for your speech. That was very interesting. It gave me an insight more on your interest in terms of the way you presented your speech. This is your third speech, and you started out with all the different sequences that happened. 2015, how you had your icebreaker then and icebreaker. I think in that part, I was thinking you can maybe highlight the progression and your goal as far as going from speech to speech. You can actually have, I would say you can actually have one topic, and but you say I want to progress from here to here. So if you emphasize that, I think it makes the speech more interesting. I would say when you deliver your speech, there's a maybe more movement, and again, when you make your movement, it's a matter of gesture and moving across the stage, and you try to articulate it that way. I think it makes it more lively. I think when you make your presentation, there's a vocal variety. Try to emphasize certain points that you would like to emphasize. There's also a part in your speech that I noticed that there are a few technical terms that you were mentioning, and really depending on the audience, if it's a very highly technical audience, you don't have to expand too much. But I'd say in this audience, you would maybe want to expand on some of the technical things that you were talking about. I knew some of it, a lot of what you said, because I'm also a sci-fi fan, so I can relate, right? But you have to stay somehow connected to your audience in such a way that they can relate to what you're saying. So in that sense, you have to expand more on a technical term. For example, you can expand on it by definition. You can expand on it by personal experience, what you personally experienced and how it felt to you, and maybe a little bit of situational, like what you experienced when you watch Star Wars or something like that. Maybe the ground down to earth connection with your audience as far as what they can relate to. Try to find maybe a small story in regards to that to make it more a more human type of speech. And there's a few other things that I think you on towards the end summarized it to your major interests, basically programming, reading, movies, and things that you would like to focus on, but also bring. I think I would tail end towards the ending is a progression, like a little bit about yourself and what those things really, what you would like to achieve with doing those things basically. And if you end it that way, I think you'll have a very, very, very good composed speech and more relatable and more interesting, I would say. And so that's basically what my comment is. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. And with that, since we have gone through all of our evaluators, we will now be switching over to doing our table topics. Today, Wan Ming will be our table topics master. Please help me welcome Wan Ming.
Thank you. So we don't have much time left. Since today's topic is on communication, we're going to focus on one particular technique in communication. And this technique is the idea of staying on message. If you notice, politicians do it all the time, and CEOs do it all the time, and you can too. You can too. The technique goes like this. If someone asks you, you have a message in your mind that you want to deliver to people. The message that we're going to deliver today is Style Toastmaster is the best club and everyone should join. So that's the message. So whenever someone asks you a question, whatever the question is, you answer it. And then you pivot. And then you say, Style Speaker is the best club, everyone should join. You tell a story, and then you repeat that again. Style Speaker is the best club, everyone should join. So that's the technique. So we're going to practice it by asking Georgie. Hey, Georgie, what do you think of about the impeachment that's going on?
Okay, I'm kind of slightly confused.
Okay.
So I'm supposed to say something about the impeachment and then
You
pivot?
answer the question and then pivot.
And I pivot and I pivot. How do I pivot? What do I do with pivot?
Well, okay, so let me give the example. So someone
Yeah,
asked
I'm
me,
slow.
how about the
I need more
impeachment?
coffee, okay?
Okay, that's fine. So, oh, the impeachment, that's terrible. You know, the country is going to go into a mess for the next few years. And the more I think about it, the more I think about how important public speaking is. And I
So I'm supposed to twist it to toast?
Yeah,
It's not twisted.
and the idea is, Style Speaker, I've been going there for quite a number of years, and I see so many people join. Everyone should join, because you gotten to be so good a speaker. And in fact, I see a lot of the people, presidents and so on, joining Toastmasters, and this is one of the best clubs to join.
Okay, so
that's the
I
idea.
pivot to any topic or Toastmasters?
You answer the question, and then you pivot back to your message. And
And
deliver
my
the
message is?
Style Speaker is the best club, everyone should join. Very simple.
Alright.
Tell a story around it,
Okay.
and then
Like I said, I need
you
more
repeat
coffee.
it.
Okay, so.
Well, I'm going to ask you a different question.
Oh, okay, sure.
So what do you think of all this? They're shutting down all the power
Yeah.
in the Bay Area.
Yeah. Actually, this is something I've noticed. We have quite a bit of problems with power in California, more so than any other place in the United States that I found, or even across the world I found. I'm from a relatively rural area in the South, and we have no problem stringing power cords all over the place for the last few decades. But for some reason, last year, California had all these wildfires, evidently because power lines were strung in rural areas badly by the power company itself. So I'm extraordinarily confused what's going on with with PG&E and all the money they spend. But while PG&E may not know what they're doing, I think it highlights how effective Startup Speakers is, because obviously we are here doing our job without any problems at 7 in the morning. We haven't even thought about shutting down because of high winds. And I think it just highlights the quality of this meeting and the people in it. And I think that we have a solid connection here, so much more solid than anything that PG&E seems to be able to put together.
So Hannah, what's happening with Hong Kong?
Oh my gosh, Hong Kong. The only thing I've heard is there's a lot of riots and people that are upset.
Connect something.
Honestly, I feel like it's so much different than our club because we're not upset and we're not rioting over here at Startup Speakers. And I believe it's the best club and everybody has to be a part of it.
You want to tell a story? Maybe?
Oh,
Let's repeat that.
I've never been to Hong Kong, but my in-laws are in Hong Kong and China right now. They're actually went from Beijing to Shanghai, and so I can't wait till they come back and they tell me about what they saw in China. But other than that, I kind of feel for the people. I feel like America has its own problems that we have to deal with here too. But every country kind of has an opportunity to become better, and I feel like I'm glad to be a part of something that also gives me an opportunity to become a better speaker and a communicator and connect with the community here at Startup Speakers.
It's a tricky thing.
It's hard to do.
So,
Yeah.
Jose, how was the weather yesterday?
Sophie.
The weather yesterday was pretty fair, but then again, it doesn't compare to being here with Startup Speakers. Startup Speakers, it gives me that energy, that jolt of energy. It is not because the weather here in California seems like it's very, very tame and very, very predictable. But Startup Speakers is not predictable, which is very, very good. It makes me feel very excited. I'm glad to be here. Join Startup Speakers.
So, Ash, what did you eat yesterday?
Throughout the day, we were just. So yesterday I had my morning smoothie that I made with spinach, berries, which is the only way I can get my greens in sometimes. And then I had a hard-boiled egg for breakfast. And for lunch I had Sweet Greens. Have you guys been to Sweet Greens, the salad place? Yeah, it's a really nice salad place. They're very hearty. They're very wholesome salads, I guess. Very good. Had lunch with a couple coworkers, and for dinner, we actually had an Oktoberfest thing happening at work, and so I had some pretzels, some German beer, and some German wine, and then I went to a burger place to have a grilled chicken sandwich and more beer. And as I was having breakfast today, I had a banana. I was thinking I'm just so excited to go to the Startup Speakers meeting today, and I was excited to give my speech, so it made my breakfast today more enjoyable, or maybe a little nervous while having my banana on my drive here. And I think it's great to be in this club and grow and enjoy our food while we do it. Maybe we should have breakfast here one day.
Thank you. So Jennifer.
Okay, this will be our last one, okay?
Okay, last one.
Should be the last one before that. Okay, go ahead.
What do you think of the arrangement of these tables here in this room?
Well, in this room, I noticed that we always put the U shape, and somehow when I see the U shape, I would think about union, united, connected, and it's definitely resonate with how Startup Speaker Toastmaster bring the feeling of united to the people into it. If you're so lonely out there, if you feel so isolated, come to Startup Speaker Toastmaster and feel the union that we have to bring it together or to offer it to you. So join us.
Thank you. So that ends the table topic, please vote for the best table topics person. Just summarize very quickly. The idea is you answer the question, but you answer it fairly quickly, and then you move on and go deliver your message, and you focus most of the time on the message. So that's the technique. Thank you.
Alrighty. Well done, Lemon. It's always interesting when we do table topics in a slightly different way than we've ever done them before. With that, the general evaluator is supposed to now, I guess, evaluate the meeting. So, as a general evaluator, I would say that we did start about 5 minutes late, but we kind of, knew we were starting a little late. We'll work on that in the future. And just to remind everybody, in theory, we're supposed to be starting at 7:15 in the morning. So, we'll just try to remember that in the future. I am also supposed to evaluate the evaluators. With that, I will go and look at my notes real quick. And our evaluators started off with Wang-Ming. Wang-Ming, you did an excellent job evaluating Jennifer. I think you brought up the most important points about the slides and how things could be improved by making things, so you can move around the stage and we can better see the slides and see your smiling face. I didn't really have much to add. Wang-Ming, you've been evaluating quite well, so you hit all the major points. Tony, I thought you did a really good job evaluating Arsh, and you hit all the major points I thought of as well. You brought in the movement, which I hadn't considered at the time, but the one point that I also echo is that I think you did an excellent job, really descriptive language, but the one tiny little thing I would suggest would be maybe slowing down just a little bit. It may have been a bit nerves because you were coming up here and doing this. I think if you just slow it down slightly, I could understand everything you were saying, but I could see how someone who, English is not their first language might not get every little part of that. But that was the only thing I was just, everything else was really, really great. You did a great job, and you did a great job evaluating her. And last but not least was Jose evaluating Harun. And once again, excellent job doing our evaluation, our icebreaker yet again. Good job on that, Harun. And I agree with what you're saying. The only thing that I would like to add with respect to your evaluations, when you were saying that Harun should describe some of the technical terms a little bit more. At first, I wasn't sure if you were talking about with respect to technical terms you brought up, like natural language processing, or with respect to the sci-fi. But you mentioned later sci-fi. You specifically homed in on the sci-fi aspect of it. So I guess you meant some of the terms used with respect to sci-fi. You also mentioned the Star Wars story. Like I said, I wasn't sure if you were talking about he should talk more about the technical terms with the work and the notes he was doing, or with respect to the sci-fi stuff he was doing. So that was just one thing I was a little unclear about in the beginning. Otherwise, really good job doing that. In general, the meeting went really well, and with that, I would like to go through our different things with respect to our duty masters. I'll start with our timer. Hannah, can you give us our times, please? Sorry.
All right. So everyone was kind of on the icebreaker schedule where they just kept going on and on and on.
That's one way to phrase it, yeah.
But it's okay. Jennifer, you were at 8 minutes, 42 seconds. Arsh, it was our icebreaker, so you were at 8 minutes, 25 seconds. And I was told that icebreakers, you can time it, but you shouldn't stop them. That's what I was told that you can do.
Although I think if we have a fourth icebreaker, we might not use that one.
It's okay. 2 out of 3 were icebreakers, so we'll forgive it. Harun was 8 minutes, 11 seconds. Evaluations, Wang-Ming, you were 3 minutes, 36 seconds. Tony evaluation was short, 2 minutes, 20 seconds, and then Jose 3 minutes, 38 seconds.
Great, thank you. Okay. Yay! Hey, Marion. Okay, in general, I think everything went really well. Jennifer, I liked your area of opportunities. Thought that was really a nice phrase to use. Let's see. One thing, when you were saying Michael Phelps, it sounded like you were saying Michael Pelps, like with a P. And I'm used to hearing the F sound, so I don't know, maybe this was the way I was hearing it. Let's see. Oh, not all the people have the good genes for the shoes. I think it's a little wordy. I mean, it's okay English, but I would just say something like, people don't have all the genes that they would prefer, or something like that. Just shorten it a little bit. And let's see. I also like when you said blockbuster of Gmail. Like I said, blockbuster. Nice, good phrasing with that word. Let's see. Finding your identity through fashion. I thought that was one thing really descriptive. May not be at the moment. You're talking about with your passion. It may not be at that moment. A story I told myself with respect to dancing. Once again, really descriptive language that helps tell a story with what you're doing. Harun. Hence this icebreaker. Whenever you can throw in a word like hence, that's not bad. Okay, so let's see. It got a little wordy with the first question that I could tell you if you asked me about. I think that just kind of ran on. I think the first answer that I would give you if you were to ask me a question, something like that. Let's see. Impedance mismatch on note taking. That was a very engineering way of phrasing that. Let's see. Think with my hands instead of my head. Nice way to phrase that as well. Let's see. Tony, second language like me. Oh, sorry, have second language like me. I think you meant have a second language like me, or speak multiple languages or something like that. Let's see. Hannah, I feel for the people of Hong Kong, on and on and on. I like that way to describe it. It really makes it nice and vivid. And that was pretty much it. So that's the grammarian's report. Let's go to our word master, Wan Ming.
Miss Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, Jennifer, Georgie, Jose, Tony used the word.
Woohoo! Everyone else wins fine, 25 cents if somebody tracks you down and beats you up for it. Okay, next. Technically, we have a joke master, Mr. Wan Ming again, please.
Okay, so hopefully it's okay, Joe. A farmer is being interviewed about his cows. The interviewer asks, how much milk do these cows give? The farmer says, which one? The black one or the brown one? The interviewer said, the brown one. The farmer said, a couple liters a day. The interviewer asked, how about the black one? The farmer said, a couple liters a day. The interviewer is scratching his head. What's going on? I see. What do you give them to eat? The farmer asked, which one? Black or brown? The interviewer said, black. It eats grass. And the other one? Grass. Now the interviewer is really annoyed. Why do you keep asking which one when the answers are the same? The farmer said, because the black one is mine. The interviewer said, oh, and the brown one is also mine.
Great. Excellent job on me on the joke this week. Last week I wasn't too sure, but this week I'm pretty sure. All right. Now, with that, just want to remind everyone that Jose is going to be our ballot counter. So please make sure all the ballots head to Jose so he can tally them up for us. Last but not least is our counter, Tony.
Yeah, the star counter, I counted so Jennifer have 4 and 1 so and you know. Hannah, you have 2, 1 and 1 so and you know. Arash, you have 16, 10 of and 5 of so and you know, because you speak fast, so you don't realize to skip it. Harun, you have 5 in total, 3 arms, 1 so and you know, 1 repeated words. Wyoming, you have 1 arms, 2 so and you knows, and 1 repeated word. Me, I count myself at 2 arms, 3 so and you know, and 2 repeated words. Jose, I didn't count anything. Georgie, you have 4 arms. The extra 2 is when you speak right now. Yeah.
Okay, great. Yay. All right, so anyone who disagrees with him, before you beat him up, let's check the videotape. Other than that, it is now time for me to transition over to our president. So
So please help me welcome our president, Jennifer.
Thank you, Georgie. Do we have the results? Right. Do we have any announcement to make? Besides that, we have a fall fusion on October what? Do you know fall fusion? Yeah. Let me
Not
check
off my
real
head.
quick.
But there is also some party or something.
Yeah,
stuff
it's
going on?
it's a contest for the district, so you will get to see so many clubs they participate in that one day, and it would happen in Mountain View, and it's called Fall Fusion. It's even
Competition.
have, huh?
Competition.
Yeah, the name is Fall Fusion, and the date is 8:30 to 4, and it's gonna be October 19. They have a Halloween costume contest too. It's gonna be from 8:30 to 4:30 p.m. And so we would have announcement for the winners today. Wonderful.
Do we want to talk about this?
Yes, I'm also having, I think I
Oh,
spoke
yeah,
about
please.
it last time with the table
Yeah.
topics, but last time I had a party, I think only 3 Toastmasters showed up, like Jennifer and
Yeah,
then
Raz.
Raj. But if more of you guys want to come, I mean the party's still going on, but if you want to do a early wine reception, just check out the haunted house because the whole house is like decorated. And it's actually like the committee. There's like 4 or 5 of us. We went all out on the decoration, so. You guys are welcome to come. It is mostly adults, but on Sunday the 13th, if you want to bring your kids, we're having a little thing for our neighbors. So, like, just reach out to me if you want to bring your kid early, you can bring them early and walk them through the house and then take off if you want to.
So
But-
all the decoration is done now?
Yeah, mostly. Like this weekend it'll be finalized.
Yeah.
But it's already done this weekend.
It's October 31st.
No, the party's on the 19th. It's on Saturday.
Okay.
So
Yeah, same day with the.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
You
so
can go
a
to
handful of you guys want to come, we're going to open up a bottle of wine and do a reception, but the party starts at 7, so you're welcome to come. There's always a costume contest and we do a scavenger hunt. So
Thank you,
Yeah.
Hannah. Hannah is a big fan of Halloween. It seems like it's the biggest festival all year, right, for you and the family. Thank you for invitation. So we'll let you know when we be able to come and join you. So drum roll please for the winners today. The best evaluator come to Mommy. Congratulations. The best table topic goes to Georgie. BG&E. Yay.
Okay, well, wasn't who I voted for. Wasn't who I voted for, okay.
And the third one, last but not least, the best speaker today goes to Ash. Yay! The very first one is startup speaker, and you already won. Yay! Congratulations. Yay! And he can give you this.
Alright, let me take a few. Alright,
Yay! Thank you, everyone. Before we leaving this room, let's volunteer for the next week's role. And we need the table topic. Oh no, the Toastmaster first. Toastmaster. Yeah. Arun. We have table topic master.
I could, yeah, me too.
Do we have speakers next week?
Oh,
Jose is the first speaker.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Tony is the second speaker. Georgie, would you like to speak next week? Next week. Next week is yeah.
Yeah.
We can have backup speaker. I can be your backup speaker, so if you can.
Okay.
Yeah. So either Ash or Jennifer would be the third one.
Evaluators.
Huh?
That could be evaluated.
Yeah. Wan Ming is the evaluator. And this for you too. Alright, we have fair amount of roles that fill already. And to embrace the theme of communication, let's have a great communication week and talk as many people as you want and convey the precise message like Wan Ming shared with us today. And bring more guests and more members to our club. Okay?
Hamburg.
Yay.